got a bit of a confession to make. 2 years ago, I decided that I was done with fast fashion brands. And I'd love to stand here today and tell you that the reason I came to this decision was because of heartbreaking stories about exploited garment workers, or devastating photos of landfill sites and beaches full of unwanted clothes, but that just wouldn't be completely true. Because let's be completely honest here. Sustainable fashion doesn't sound very sexy, does it? To me, it had connotations of being very serious, responsible, wearing an outfit that resembled a beginner's arts and crafts project, because of course, saving the planet is more important than looking stylish on a day-to-day basis. I knew that. It just wasn't a world I really saw myself in until I went on holiday to Mexico. Now, this was my first trip abroad since the pandemic, and not only had I been cooped up in leggings and hoodies for far too long, I also had a new man. Yeah, as you can imagine, this was no regular holiday clothes shop. This became a military operation. In the weeks leading up to this holiday, I was spending hours in the evenings after work, curled up on my sofa, laptop in front of me, and the posture of a langoustine prawn. I was obsessively scrolling through thousands of clothing items online, doing outfit equations in my head. If I buy this skirt, it'll go with that top, but if I buy that skirt, it'll go with this top and that top. Maybe I'll buy the shorts. They're not my size. It was getting chaotic even for a fast fashion addict like me. I had so many orders arriving at my flat on a day-to-day basis. I was losing track of what I had ordered and how much I had racked up on my credit card. And if this whole scenario wasn't enough of a wake-up call, here's when the penny really dropped. Those sandals, I spent hours narrowing down to the perfect pair, hurt my feet. In the 5-minute walk from our hotel room to the pool, I never wore them again. That green dress I wore to dinner one night wasn't really something I was ever going to wear back home. In fact, most of the clothes I actually ended up taking with me were either poor quality, or they didn't really suit me, or both. And so all that time and money I had spent had pretty much been a total waste. And do you think my boyfriend noticed these little flaws in my outfits? No. I could have worn the same thing every single day. He still would have said, "Honey, you look amazing." I know. He's a smart guy. The plane journey home from Cancun to Glasgow is about 10 hours, and so that gave me a lot of time to think. As I started to think about my holiday clothes, and then all the clothes that I have bought in recent years, it took me to one of life's greatest mysteries, and I know there'll be husbands and boyfriends here who have inquired about this one. If I'm constantly buying new clothes, why is it that I have nothing to wear? I know, it makes absolutely no sense, but believe me, there are so many women affected by nothing-to-wear-itis. Somewhere over the Atlantic Ocean, I could feel my perception of fast fashion shift from something fun that allowed me to express myself to something that was keeping me trapped in a cycle that would never leave me truly satisfied in the long run. It was then that I realized maybe constantly reinventing myself with new clothes isn't the answer. Maybe it's reflection. Now, whether you're interested in fashion or not, something that every single person in this room has in common, I hope, is we all got dressed today. Now, I know you wouldn't get too far in your day if you didn't get dressed, but it has been well documented throughout history that our clothes are extensions of ourselves. They have the power to tell a story about who we are and who we want to be seen as by others. take this yellow top of mine, for example. Now, you can't quite see the front, but it has the slogan, "It's cool to be kind." If that's not a girl desperately trying to tell everyone she's cool and kind, I don't know what is. We've all got those outfits that we look back on and think, oh, was that really fashionable at the time? I only bought that top 6 years ago, and I cringe thinking about it now. In fact, I actually got rid of it quite a while ago, and I know that's really wasteful, but it's just one top, right? Except it's never just one top, is it? According to McKinsey's Style That's Sustainable report, in 2014, the average consumer bought 60% more clothes compared to the year 2000. And get this, they only kept their garments for half as long. So we're buying more clothes, but we're wearing them fewer times. And that's because we live in a world where our clothes are massively overproduced, overconsumed, and extremely disposable. Now, a lot of you will probably hear that and recognize that this sounds like a terrible idea for the planet. And you're right. However, for someone who loves fast fashion and keeping up with trends just like I did, I know that if you listen closely enough, you could hear something quite different. Sounds to me like I can have my pick from thousands of clothing items, sold at a cheap price so I can afford to keep feeding myself that rush of excitement whenever I buy something new. I could fit in, or I could stand out. This sounds like a great idea. And that's what I think the real problem is when it comes to fast fashion and overconsumption. It's not that we don't know that a dark side of this industry exists. And I also don't believe it's that we're genuinely happy that our clothes are being made in truly appalling conditions. The problem is we choose what we want to hear based on our beliefs. Now, as you can probably tell by my absolute brick of a computer in this photo, I'm a child of the millennium. So a lot of you will probably remember there were no social media influencers back in those days. Instead, I idolized the fashion choices of who I considered to be the most profound musicians of my generation. Girls aloud. I still credit my love of leopard print to Shania Twain, and also a little bit to Cat Slater, the loudmouth character from EastEnders. When I was little, I used to love sitting on the sofa with my mum and my sister and watching those makeover TV shows that were on a lot in the early 2000s, where you'd have this sad, shy person transformed by the professionals into this happy, confident version of themselves through their appearance. Growing up, my favorite movies, The Devil Wears Prada, 13 Going on 30, The Princess Diaries, all seem to center around this storyline of an unpopular, unattractive girl finding a more desirable version of herself through fashion and beauty. You see, those are the messages that I grew up with. For as long as I can remember, being fashionable was an essential way for me to create a version of myself that other people would approve of, even just at a glance. Being fashionable is what I have always believed was key to being a successful, confident woman when I grew up. A woman that would be taken seriously, respected, liked. After that holiday to Mexico, where I realized just how detrimental my shopping habits had become for me, I started to look into what my alternatives would be if it wasn't shopping from fast fashion brands all the time. And I have to admit, I was quite surprised with what I found. See, I had no idea that slow and sustainable fashion brands really existed. Never mind that they made dresses like this, or boots like these. See, I always thought that turning my back on fast fashion would mean giving up this part of me that loves fashion. And as it turns out, that could not be further from the truth. Because believe me, when it comes to my wardrobe now, I am quite the ruthless fashion editor. Because why should I spend my money on clothes that I don't absolutely love, that are not going to stand the test of time, and that are not from brands that are at least trying to make this industry more ethical? And what that's done to the clothes that actually make the cut is they are far more valuable to me now. I appreciate my clothes more. And is that not what fashion is all about? An appreciation of clothes. Something that is so easily forgotten about in the face of consumerism is having a great sense of personal style has never really been about keeping up with fashion trends and looking like everyone else. It comes from a deep curiosity about yourself. It's knowing who you are underneath the clothes you wear and allowing that to shine through. I think we could all do with recognizing the power of choice we really have as consumers and putting more of the personal back into our personal style. Now, I could go on about different ways we could be more sustainable with our fashion choices, but instead, I'll leave you with this. Next time you find yourself tempted to buy a new piece of clothing because it's on sale or it's on trend or you want to look like somebody else, just try zooming out for a moment and ask yourself, how long am I really going to wear and love this piece for? Am I comfortable with where this has come from and who made it? And of course, why am I buying this? Is it because I need it, or is it something deeper? Now, I know that's a lot of introspection, and the answers to those questions might not always be easy to find, but trust me, if you're bold enough to ask them, you'll stand a much better chance of finding your unique style, and perhaps yourself. Thank you.